أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today is August 5th, 2019. In 2 days, I will leave my home in Bogor, Indonesia, and make my way to Cape Town, South Africa, with stopovers in Durban and Johannesburg, as well as some nature journeys here and there, a little bit away from the cities. And this is the 25th year commemoration of the first time that I came to South Africa. And as I reflect back on that, which I will do for each of the various public events, university presentations, public addresses, as well as semi-formal and informal meetings, I will intentionally reflect back not only to the moment of being invited to deliver a khutbah in a mosque, the Claremont Main Road Mosque in Cape Town, but also the whole trip, because it was perhaps my first experience to step outside of a very narrow comfort zone in terms of my own identity as a Muslim woman. And also it turned out to be the seed for many ideas that have come to fruition in the years subsequently. So I will reflect forward from that 25-year ago event and visit, and then I will project into possible futures based on what is currently happening in the context of Islam and Muslims. I will center my projections on the work against oppression as is formulated by Muslims and participated in with Muslims and others, as opposed to general global political and economic events. And this is because I think that the general political and economic events are given substantial amount of attention, not as much as they need. For example, we are currently in a refugee crisis and an entire reconfiguration of what constitutes the borders of nation states, in my mind, is one possible future. But because I share in those experiences and events with others besides Muslims, and particularly besides Muslim women or Muslim queer, then I feel that the priority given collectively is not something that I have an especially new or unique contribution. So I will work with others in terms of alleviating the negative consequences of some of the current global realities. I just will not make them the center of my conversations during this visit. Instead, my focus is going to be on women, on gender, on sexuality, as well as on constructs of Islam, notions of authority, leadership, spirituality, spiritual practice, and the divine feminine. So I will be launching what I have been hoping for over the past year in very intense ways, and that is a public forum to discuss the divine feminine. So this is going to be sort of my introduction. the Abrahamic religious traditions, including, and some may say in particular, Islam, has a notion of the ultimate sacred reality, the Creator, Allah, that is premised upon the dominant discourse throughout over 1400 years of Islamic history and thought and practice. And that is a very patriarchal construction of Allah. And in fact, in many ways, Allah is conceived of as male. Over the course of this launching and discourse about the divine feminine, I will talk about many ways in which this happens in terms of language as well as ideas. But because of the domination factor, I spent much of my time over the past decade working through the Tawhidic paradigm. And the Tawhidic paradigm is premised upon the notion of monotheism that is critical to Islam and Islamic thought, but without the privileging of male notions of the divine. Allah is not male, but at the same time trying to underpin it with an idea of a dynamic unity between all aspects of Allah, which has implications in the context of social justice, because there should also be unity, harmony, and dignity amongst those humans created by Allah. And when there is not, then there is a need to conform our ideas, our practices, our laws, our cultures to align it with this essential notion in Islam, that of Tawheed. So for the last 10 years, what I've been doing is I've been taking a theological lens on the notions of especially women's studies, women's efforts, studies, policy reforms, activism, scholarship, and the like, towards equality and justice with an Islamic framework. And I'm very satisfied with how that works, and I will share more of it at a later date. And yet, over the last few years, I have noticed the rise of a much more feminine understanding, experience, ritual practice, spiritual devotion, symbolism, and the like, within an Islamic framework, which has been underrepresented in the public space. It's there, it's palpable, it has long and nuanced histories according to different cultures, and like all sacred ideas, it aligns itself with other traditions that have ideas of a sacred reality, a sacred energy, source, spirit, and the like. But in an Islamic framework, it seems to have been examined, presented, affirmed, even while I'm seeing more and more ways in which particularly women and queer Muslims have been participating in a realignment of their own spiritual devotion towards a kind of feminine essence. And I want to have conversations with people who are comfortable with this exchange, but also to do so within the framework of looking at what are the theological implications. And so that's what's going to be, I think, interesting or unique in terms of what I want to do with this. I have lots and lots of ideas, and how many of them will actually come to the fore will be relative to a lot of factors, most of which I cannot predetermine. But it's important for me to lay some groundwork and to present at least some of the ways in which I think it's necessary for us to move forward. Because for me, the projection of the future 25 years ahead of this moment will be one which embraces this aspect of the Tawhidic reality of Allah in its sacred feminine trajectories, because these will enhance the experience that we have of Islam, of Allah, of living on the planet Earth, of cohabiting on that planet with others, other Muslims, other not Muslims, and how we think about identity to me is intimately tied to how we think about divinity. So I really look forward to it, and I'm about to take this on the road. So I will collect as many video notes as I can along the way, many of which I hope to present immediately through using Facebook Live, and at the same time trying to figure out how to make sure everything is generated so that they collect on the YouTube channel. Please keep me in your dua and your positive thoughts, and let us see how this adventure goes for us together. Assalamu alaikum.